Tono sits in the middle of the northern portion of Japan, called Tohoku, and is centered in Iwate Prefecture. In this episode, we will look at what lies beneath the town of Tono and why it has for centuries been considered a stable place to live and has been used as a staging ground for rescue efforts, for natural disasters in the region, as well as a safe haven for survivors and recovery efforts. Japan is one of the world's great treasures. It is known around the globe for its beautiful nature, its ancient and unique culture, as well as its cutting-edge industry and science. Yet Japan is also famous for its natural disasters, in particular earthquakes and tsunamis. It is important to realize that Japan is resting on not a uniform, consistent earth, but a diverse and dynamic geology, which varies from unstable rock and sediment layers to very solid, deep granite bedrock. Let's take a brief look at the formation of Japan, beginning with the breakup of the ancient landmass Rodinia, about 750 million years ago, which formed the Panthalassa Ocean, with rock masses that eventually became Japan. In the early Silurian period, 450 million years ago, the subduction of the ocean plates began, and this process continues to the present day. The islands of Japan are the result of several large ocean and tectonic plate movements occurring over hundreds of millions of years. In its current position, there are several plates underneath Japan. The subduction of the Philippine Sea Plate beneath the continental Amurian and Okinawa Plate to the south, and subduction of the Pacific Plate under the Okhotsk Plate to the north. Japan was originally connected to the eastern coast of the Eurasian continent and included bedrock that is about 47 million years old. The subducting plates, which are deeper than the Eurasian Plate, pulled Japan eastward, opening the Sea of Japan about 15 million years ago. Currently, the Philippine Sea Plate, southern Japan, is conducting under the continental Amurian and Okinawa Plate at a speed of about 4 centimeters per year, forming the Nakai Trough and the Ryukyu Trench. The Pacific Plate is subducting under the Okhotsk Plate to the north at a rate of about 10 centimeters per year. Because of these plate movements, Japan is resting on what is called the Pacific Ring of Fire. Frequent low-intensity tremors and occasional volcanic activity are felt throughout the islands of Japan. Destructive earthquakes, often resulting in tsunamis, happen several times every 100 years. The Meiji Sanriku earthquake and tsunami of 1892 was an 8.5 magnitude earthquake, with tsunami waves reaching 38.2 meters, 125 feet. It claimed 27,000 lives and destroyed at least 10,000 homes. More recently, the Great East Japan earthquake, the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami of 2011, was a 9.0 magnitude earthquake and became the largest earthquake in Japan's history. With tsunami waves reaching 40 meters, 130 feet, it claimed over 20,000 lives and destroyed 122,000 homes, with more than 748,000 buildings badly damaged. Japan's landmass actually increased in size and moved as much as 2.4 meters, 7 to 10 feet in places. The Earth's axis actually shifted 17 centimeters, 6.5 inches, and actually changed the rotational speed of the entire planet. For both disasters, Tono was used as a logistics headquarters. as well as an evacuation haven for the thousands of people who were affected by the disasters. The reason Tono was chosen was in part because it is located only 20 minutes by helicopter and an hour from the ocean by road, and yet it would not be affected by the tsunamis. During the feudal period, Tono was also used as a hub because of its strategic position and well-developed network of roads connecting the coast with the inland cities. The ruling Nambu family made Tono a castle town because of its location as well as its legendary stability. We visited with and learned a great deal from Miss Mae Kawasan, who is the curator at the Tono Museum. Tono sits in a high mountain valley called the Kitakami Highlands, or the Kitakami Plateau. It rests upon the oldest and most solid granite bedrock of any place in Japan. For this reason, it was not only chosen to be a disaster relief headquarters for the whole region, but in our modern day, also a strong candidate for the International Linear Collider, which would be the world's largest and most cutting-edge particle accelerator. Even NASA and the Japanese government have had their eye upon Tono because of the geology of the region. But why is Tono known as a more stable place than other locations in Japan? Let's have a quick look at how geology affects earthquakes. The surface of the earth is not uniform like it is in the water of a pond. The earth and all its millions of years of evolution have created layers and spots of hard rock, while other areas have soft rock, and some have mud and soft sediment. The distribution of these soil types can vary greatly, even within small areas, and each area's specific makeup will affect the impact of an earthquake as it travels through the earth. Thus, 2 points located at the same distance from an earthquake's epicenter can experience significantly different effects. While one area may remain relatively unaffected, the other may suffer many times the impact due to geological variations known as site effects. These site effects are based on 2 geological characteristics. 1, the softness of the underlying soil or rock, and 2, the total thickness of the sediment above the bedrock. These 2 geological characteristics have an incredible impact on the degree of ground shaking that occurs during an earthquake. Seismic waves that travel through the ground move faster and oscillate less through hard rock than through soft soil. So when waves transition from hard to soft bedrock type, they increase in size and can actually be amplified, creating a bigger wave, and will cause stronger shaking. Thus, if the ground under a home or town is made of granite, it will shake less and have smaller movements. Softer rock, such as sandstone, will shake even more. The hard and soft soils, such as clay, mud, landfill, and artificial soils, will shake the most and last the longest. We took a trip to the Iwate Prefectural Museum in Morioka, and one of their geological curators, Sato-san, was kind enough to take us through their very detailed and well laid out displays. We can see the different types of soils displayed as different colors on this map. The red shows where there are large deposits of granite, which are very near the surface. Remember, this is one of the 2 important site effects we talked about earlier. The depth of the soil sitting on top of the underlying bedrock type makes a difference in terms of how much an area shakes. But here in Tono, the rich dirt and soil is not very deep, and the granite is very close to the surface. Looking east from Tono, halfway to the coast, is an amazing cave system called Rokondo. As you can see on the map, this cave is located outside the granite bedrock and sits on a softer limestone deposit. When volcanic magma cools slowly underground and hardens without erupting, it becomes granite. And it is this heat from granite that turns limestone into marble, which is what we can see inside this cave. As far as volcanic activity in the Kitakami Highlands, there are not any active volcanoes, and most of the beautiful mountains that are surrounding Tono were created by erosion and uplift rather than volcanic activity. The largest and most devastating of the volcanoes in the Tohoku region's history is the massive volcanic structure under Lake Towada, which is 200 kilometers north of Tono in Aomori Prefecture. Becoming active about 200,000 years ago, this volcano has erupted numerous times and has had enormous pyroclastic events wiping out inhabitants and plant life in that area, yet not reaching as far south as Mount Hayachine and the Kitakami Highlands. This fact is important in the cultural history of Tono, which we'll cover in a different episode. Interestingly, the eventual collapse of several lava domes as recently as 5,400 years ago is what created Lake Towada's current unique shape. However, the eruptions did leave their mark on the landscape even in Tono, which can be seen at the Miyamori Museum, the Tono city area, where they have preserved a soil cross-section showing the deposit of ash from the last eruption of 915 AD. Again, looking at this map, you can see Tono City right at the center of the figure. In this case, X does mark the spot, which is surrounded by the red color, the massive granite slab. On the left side of Tono, there is an old fault line, on the other side of which is home to Serpentine, the green color, Hayachine Complex Rock Series, another hard rock, and due to the intense pressure and heat that happened at this fault line long ago, there are many gold mines. The Kitakami Highlands is home to bedrock that was formed approximately 500 million years ago, pre-Silurian bedrock, and that is the foundation of Iwate Prefecture. Tono has geology and rocks dating back to the Mesozoic and Cenozoic periods, but the most important geological feature is the massive Tono granite, which was formed during the early Cretaceous period, 110 million to 120 million years ago. Magma penetration was the cause of its creation. This type of granite rock is distributed throughout the entire Kitakami Mountain district. When magma penetrates into the rocks, it alters the surrounding geology, which we saw in the Rokondo cave with the formation of marble, but also the formation of metal, such as gold. And actually, Kitakami Mountain region had been known for gold, iron, manganese, tungsten, and other deposits, and there were many very famous gold mines dating back from ancient times. These small gold mines were easy to detect because most of the time the entire grain of the natural gold was visible to the naked eye, making it easy to find and collect. It is said that Tono and much of the Kitakami Highlands are areas which have never been under the ocean in all these millennia. However, there have been 2 times in history that a large freshwater lake formed over the area, approximately 50,000 years ago and 100,000 years ago, which accounts for the various shells and lake bed sediment found across the highlands and the lowlands. But we find no evidence of saltwater influence until we go north of Mount Hayachine. After long periods of crustal deformation, places that have a history of being underwater lose their specific and unique plant and seed lineages. Interestingly, Mount Hayachine, which is located north of Tono, still has a wide variety of plants only found in Japan, Mount Hyachine is a treasure trove of alpine plants with a high rate of endemic species, and is also known as the Mountain of Flowers, making it very popular among climbers. Because of these important factors, the age-old granite rock foundation, very few natural disasters, no devastating volcanic activity, and being above sea level for the duration of its known history, Tono is home not only to very unique plant species, but to wondrous ancient archaeological sites, some of which are right in the downtown area of Tono. Investigation teams are finding artifacts from the Jomon era, which was from about 13,000 years ago up till 2,300 years ago. And what is now called Tasobe District in Tono City, we find remains from the era of humans before Homo sapiens, called the Kanedore ruins. They have found traces of camping using fire and stone tools from 90,000 years ago. Even the first dinosaur bones to be discovered in Japan were discovered in Iwate Prefecture, and scientists are beginning to find even more because of the long-term stability of this region. Tono, by all appearances these days, is a sleepy little town of less than 25,000 residents, nestled in the wild mountains of Iwate. And yet, if you look within, deeper, into the people and the culture, you find an immense treasure of tradition and art. If you look beneath Tono itself, into the earth, and into the history of this amazing area, you'll find it absolutely bursting with unique geological, archaeological, and historical culture, with myths, legends, and stories that rival any place on this earth.